Hey there! Today we are cooking with Swiss cheese, ham, and a whole lot of eggs. On this episode of What Do You Make of This? I'm going to teach you how to make my grandma's quiche. Easter is a big holiday in my family. We all like to get together to celebrate, and as with most family gatherings, there is usually a lot of food. While the snacks may change from year to year, the one dish that is always on the table is my grandma's ham and Swiss quiche. Now, my grandma Lucille is actually a really big fan of this show, and she has given me her blessing to share this recipe with the entire world. So one thing I want to discuss about this quiche before we get started is that this is actually a crustless quiche. So all we have here are three main ingredients: eggs, ham, and Swiss cheese. And these three things are going to come together to make this dish that has become so traditional in my family. I'm going to show you how we get things prepped first. Before I start slicing though, I do just want to call out exactly what we're going to be using. So for this recipe, we are using 6 eggs, we are using half a pound of ham, and half a pound of Swiss cheese. I'm going to start with this Swiss cheese first. So we will just get that ham out of the way until we're ready for it. And I'm going to begin by just cutting this cheese into about 1/4 inch to half-inch cubes. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't own a cheese knife. I'm not a fan of things that only have one purpose. The problem is, because I don't own a cheese knife, slicing cheese can get a little frustrating. And if you also do not own a cheese knife, you may find this the single hardest part of the entire recipe. So bear with me while I try to cube up half a pound of Swiss cheese. Okay, so now that I have cubed up all of this Swiss cheese, and I will show you, they're in squares, probably about the size of my thumbnail squared, but you can do them a little bit bigger if you like it extra cheesy. You can do them a little bit smaller if you would like it to incorporate in. This is about the size that we generally do in my family. So I'm just going to get this cheese into a bowl. And do try to break up the squares a little bit. It's just a little bit less work to do once you go to assemble the entire quiche. So Swiss cheese being kind of a medium firmness, it's got enough moisture that it does like to kind of stick together. So you do have to pull it apart. You have to fight with it a little bit while you're slicing, but stick with it. Oh, we lost a cheese. Fortunately, there's a lot of it. Stick with it, and you will get through this process. And like I mentioned, this is really the hardest part of the entire recipe. So if you make it through this, you're smooth sailing for the rest of the way. Okay, there we go. So that is quite a lot of Swiss cheese. That's what makes it good. So we're just going to get that out of the way. And the next thing I'm going to work on are the eggs. So these are 6 eggs here. I am just going to add to them 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And I will measure because I do want to make sure that I get this right. This is somebody else's recipe and I don't like to play around with it too much because I do like it to come out the same way every single time. Now for the salt, I am going to be adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt to these eggs. You might need to change that a little bit though, depending on the ham that you are using. Some ham is much saltier than others. So I would recommend, we're using cooked ham, taste a little piece of it, adjust or add more or less salt as you think you need to based on your taste and your preferences. So like I had mentioned, I'm going to be adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt to mine. You may only need 1/4 teaspoon, but do remember it's 6 eggs. Those eggs do handle a lot of flavoring very well, so you may need to add a little bit more seasoning. This is the one time though you can't really taste as you're cooking because you don't want to eat the raw eggs. So try your ham is the best thing I can advise you. Adjust from there. Okay, so to these eggs now, I'm just going to give them a good whisk with my whisk here. I like to always start by just poking the eggs. It helps them to incorporate a lot faster. And then we're just going to give this a mix. Now, a lot of quiche recipes will add milk or cream to the eggs, which makes them a little bit lighter, a little bit fluffier, even a little bit creamier tasting as you eat them. Not this recipe. She only uses the straight eggs, and what it does is it actually results in a much denser egg base, and it's one of the things that just makes this a little bit different and so very delicious. Everything is really dense, it's really intensely flavored. And it's what I love about it. Don't get me wrong, when I do make other quiches, I do like to add the cream and make it a very nice, smooth egg texture, but this is less of a custard and it's almost more of an Italian frittata. So we're gonna keep it really dense, really intensely flavored. And just give these eggs a good mix, because if you don't have it incorporated well enough, you'll have chunks of whites and chunks of egg yolk. You really want it to be very smooth in that sense. So Take your time with whisking. Make sure you get it in there really well. This is also just a good opportunity to get the salt and the pepper really well incorporated. We don't want any pockets of that because even though it's delicious, you don't want to bite into a big pocket of pepper. You want it to be a very smooth flavor from bite to bite and piece to piece. Okay, that's looking good. I will just get that eggy whisk out of the way and we'll move these eggs for now. And so the final thing I'm going to be using is this ham. So I am using, like I had mentioned earlier, this is a cooked ham. This is half a pound of ham. You can play around with this a little bit. You can use a ham steak. I have just used a boneless pre-cooked ham that I picked up at my grocery store. This is even one that you could do with your leftover ham the day after Easter, and this is a delicious way to just use up your leftovers. So play around with it. As long as it's ham, as long as it's cooked ham, from there, sky's the limit. This is what I found though. This is what I'm going to be using. Okay, so I'm going to start with this ham. How do I want to do this? Trying to think of the easiest way. I'm going to start, we're basically going to cube this the exact same size as the Swiss cheese. So I'm going to just start with this cut by breaking it down into some planks. That looks about the size of the Swiss cheese, give or take a little bit. And then, just because I don't want things moving around on me, I'm going to just do this 4 times to play it safe. So I am now going to cut these slabs of ham into sticks, like that. And then I will turn my sticks into cubes. Just like that. Okay, get those out of the way, and we're just going to repeat this process 3 more times. I will try to zip through this, and it's definitely a lot easier to cut ham than it is to cut cheese. So we'll go through this. So like I mentioned, this is my the traditional recipe in my family, but you can certainly feel free to play around with it once you've experimented a little bit, or once you've grown familiar with it, experiment a little bit. Make it your own. You can try different kinds of meat, you can try different kinds of cheeses. The way I'm used to eating this particular recipe is always with ham and Swiss cheese, so that's how I do it. But by all means, if you're not a fan of Swiss, try it with cheddar. If you're not a fan of cheddar, try it with mozzarella. You can certainly experiment. You are cooking it. It is now your opportunity to make this your famous quiche. So just get this last piece of ham. And this one does have an outer layer of skin. It's totally edible, and actually I kind of like the contrast of some pieces of ham that have no skin and a few pieces that have a lot of skin. It just gives some of them a little bit more bite, a little bit more snap. Some of them are a little more tender. It just keeps things interesting. Okay, so we are going to now get this cubed up ham into a bowl. I've got this ham just trying to run away from me the entire time I have been cubing it up. No, it's all going into this quiche. Okay, they are surprisingly difficult to pick up. There we go. And as with the cheese, just give it a little break up here. Make sure there are no big chunks, because once you mix it all together, you're not going to have another chance to break things up again. So just pick through them a little bit as you're getting them into a bowl and out of the way, because you don't want to make sure you've got any big pieces of ham. You do want it to really have a chance to spread out through the entire quiche. Okay, the rest of these are looking pretty good. There we go. Okay, so we have now got our half a pound of Swiss, our half a pound of ham, and our 6 eggs all mixed up and ready to go. I'm just going to wash up and clean this cutting board, and I will show you how to assemble the quiche. Okay, so it is time to put this quiche together. Now, baked eggs have got to be one of the stickiest things on the planet, and so I'm going to bring in every reinforcement that I know to make sure that we can turn this quiche out of the pan when it's done. I'm going to start by just greasing the pan. I'm using olive oil, but by no means do you have to use olive oil. You can use butter, you can use cooking spray, use what you like for greasing a pan. I'm also just going to get this out of the way because I don't want to knock over an entire bottle of oil while we're talking. So to this oil, I am just going to take a paper towel and rub it all over the pan, into every corner, every little piece, because my experience has shown me that the one spot I don't oil is the one spot that it just clings for dear life and does not come out again. And I'm also just going to really move this around because I want to make sure this paper towel has absorbed any of the excess grease. I don't want it to basically deep fry while it bakes. I want to make sure that it's just preventing anything from sticking. I'm also going to be using this because I've got a little piece of parchment here. Now you don't have to do this. My grandma doesn't use parchment in the bottom, but I do want to show you how beautiful this dish comes out once it's turned out and cut into squares, and I don't want to risk it sticking to the bottom of the pan because I want you to see how magnificent this can be. So I'm putting some parchment paper, and I am also just going to spread this oily paper towel over the parchment paper. And what that's going to do, if you are using this method, is it's going to basically help glue it to the bottom of the pan to make sure that the egg doesn't run underneath it, because then we're risking, you know, basically parchment coated egg, and we don't want that. Okay, so get that in there really well, really nice and oily, and that's just going to really help seal it into the pan. Okay, so gonna get this just into the sink, dry off my hands a little bit. Okay, so next thing I'm going to be doing is going in with all of this cheese and all of the ham. And what this is also going to do is it's going to weigh down that parchment paper again, so that's a good thing. Anything to keep that egg from seeping underneath. Make sure all of this cheese is well broken up, and the ham as well. So this is not a layered dish. So what I'm going to do next, just get these bowls out of the way here, roll up my sleeves a little, is just get in there and give it a little bit of a mix just to make sure that it's very evenly distributed, because you want, basically when this is finished, we're going to be cutting it into little squares, and you just want to make sure that every square has a pretty even bite of ham and cheese all throughout it so that nobody's fighting over that one that's got the most ham. Okay, so give this a good mix. If you're using the parchment, make sure that parchment does not come up at this stage. There we go. And so this, as you can see, is a ton of ham and cheese. I mean, it really is mostly this good decadent filling held together by some eggs. So it's a pretty rich dish, but because it's a holiday dish, it's one of those things. I don't try to make it healthy. I don't try to do anything different. It is what it is, and it's delicious because of that. So let me just give my hands another good dry here. And then we're going to go in with this egg mixture. And it might not even be enough right now to completely cover this mixture, or I mean the ham and the Swiss. That's actually okay, because the egg is going to puff up as it's cooking, and it will cover everything. But this, again, makes sure that there's not just a bunch of stuff hidden at the bottom and then a bunch of egg on top. This really is, every bite from top to bottom, left to right, is going to be full of ham and Swiss and egg. It is delicious. I'm just going to use my spoon here to kind of pat things down a little bit and try to make sure it's as close to submerged as it's going to get. Maybe move some things around if it looks like you've got any pockets where you've got more of one ingredient than another, but you know, we're not looking for textbook precision here. This is just beautiful family cooking at its finest. Okay, so now that that's done, this is just going to be going into an oven at 350 degrees for probably about half an hour. You may have to adjust that though. What we're looking for is the eggs to be completely cooked through, and what I like to test for is just give it a push in the middle and on the edges. Once it's about the same firmness all throughout, it's ready. I would say check it after about 20 minutes, but you may need to go longer than 30 minutes. It's gonna depend on your oven. I swear it just depends on what the weather is like that day when you bake sometimes. So check it at 20 minutes, but once it's as firm uniformly all throughout, it's going to be ready to go. Now, once this is done, I want you to make sure that you let this cool completely before you handle it, because we're going to turn it out of a pan and get it cut up. Okay, so this quiche is cooked, it is cooled. I did leave it out for about an hour to completely cool, because what we're going to do next is turn it out and cut it. And you want to make sure that this cheese has really had a chance to set and cool down completely. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit too runny, and when you go to slice into it, there's a chance the whole thing is going to break and fall apart. And that would be a sad day. So let it cool, take your time. This is worth the extra little bit of weight to have it come out perfectly. So now that it's nice and cool, I'm going to just take a butter knife and go around the edges. And it's already pretty loose because I really greased this pan well, but I just want to make sure there is nothing sticking when I go to flip it out of the pan. And I'm just flipping it out of the pan because it's easier to cut that way and it's easier to serve in little squares, but you can certainly just cut it right in the pan and dish it out however you like. Okay, so we don't actually need that knife anymore. Moment of truth, we're going to take this and give it a flip. Wow, look how easy that was. And the parchment paper stayed behind. So that is a great trick. If you have it, use it. If you don't though, even the sides, they were oiled so well, the whole thing just came right out. So I'll just get that out of the way and give this a flip right side up. And so you may have noticed as it was baking, it really puffed up, but as it continued to sit and cool, the eggs kind of collapsed back on themselves again. And what you get with the combination of the eggs and the cheese and frankly the fat and the oil from the ham as well, is it really compresses into a very dense, very decadent square of quiche. So this was thoroughly cooked after, get that little piece out of the way, this was thoroughly cooked after 30 minutes. Personally, I like mine to be a little more well done. I like it to be golden brown and I like the little crispy bits of ham on the top. So at 30 minutes, I checked it, it was done. I rotated it and I cooked it for another 10. So this is purely a matter of preference, how well done you like your eggs. So if you like them really well done like I do, certainly you can add the cook time. If you like them just barely set, you can stop it exactly when it's done. That's totally fine. Okay, so to cut this up now, I've got a good sharp, good long knife. You want it to almost run through this entire quiche. That's going to make slicing it a lot easier. And I'm just going to cut it into squares, just like any other, you know, a lasagna, brownies, anything like that. So I'll cut it in half. Yeah, I'll cut it in half again. It's really just a matter of how big squares you want. I'm going to try to be a little bit more modest here so that it feeds more people, and it's also very rich, so a little piece will definitely fill you up. So I'll cut those halves into half again. So now we've got some good quarters. And then to make my life easier, I'm just going to rotate it. And I'm just going to do that whole thing all over again. So we'll go right down the middle, like so, and cut that half in half again, just like that. And you can really feel, now that it's cooled, it's very dense. It's almost hard to get a knife through all of that cheese. And that just is what makes it so very good. I cannot wait to dig into this. Like I said, we only have this about once a year, so it's a very, very special dish, and can't wait to start eating this. So now what we have are some very nice squares, and I'll just take one and turn it here for you so you can see. You've got little pockets of cheese, little bits of ham, and the egg is really just like the glue that's binding it all together. So, like I mentioned, this is usually served in my family as kind of a party dish. So I'm going to show you how we can plate it up to make it look a little more fancy on the snack table. I've just got a little plate here with some lettuce on it, just to give it a little more color and brighten it up. We're done with that knife. Get that out of the way. I'll try to move everything over here so you can see what we're doing. There we go. Okay, so got my plate. I've got some lettuce just to give it a little bit of color and a little bit of spring vibe to it. And then all you're going to do is just start arranging these squares into a little more of a circle. I'll maybe do, how many is that? 6? Get back here, Quiche. Get that guy in the middle. There we go. And then from there, I'll just start another little tower, a second level. I like to do it so that all of the cut sides are out. The corners and the edges are going to be a little bit darker, but just for the sake of presentation, it's really nice when you can see all of the different layers and spots. Like that. So I'm just going to keep going around, and I'll try to save one of those center pieces for the very top. Let's see, get that corner used up. This is always my favorite part, is just getting to plate everything. I've said it before, but it's just a great chance to play with your food, to make it look special. And maybe one more right on the very tippy top. Get some of those extra little egg pieces out of the way and dry off my hands. And there we have a beautiful party presentation for this quiche. So this dish is great. I like to eat it for breakfast, especially on Easter morning when you're already having this, big spread of nice, rich spring bounty. Like to set it out for a snack, so it's great to just eat throughout the day. You can eat this, by the way, either cold, which is how I like it best, or hot, which is gonna get the cheese a little bit more melty. Totally just a personal preference choice. Also, you can freeze leftovers and reheat them, and they are such a great grab and go breakfast on a busy morning. It's just, this one little dish has 100 different uses, at least in my kitchen. So this is it. This is the ham and Swiss quiche, and I'm so excited to share it with you. I hope you enjoy it. And this is the hearty ham and Swiss quiche. I hope you enjoy this dish enough to make it a part of your regular family gatherings. As always, this recipe can be found in the description below. Please like and subscribe for more videos. I'm Jessica. Thanks for watching.